International Media TV. Television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnnie Burrell. Welcome to the program.
So one of the things that I actually really enjoyed about, Laila Ali's talk earlier is that it's very rare to see women go up there and be extremely confident. Sometimes they always make excuses like, well, I'm a mother, I do this, I do that, or I have all these other obligations. But she was amazing. She went up there and she said, I am the strongest as they come. This is me. I am at the top of my game. And I love that. And I think that women should really do more of that.
Yeah, I loved it. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, women in transforming technology also, what it means is, how we can drive influence, right, in terms of society or in terms of institution or in terms of the place that we may work, how we can make that profitable growth for a company that we work or, socially or economically and make the world a better place to live. What I really like about Laila's talk is, how she is so diverse in doing so many different aspects of doing, and also being so confident, as you say, and overcome the obstacle and so be open about it, right? And I think that was very influential for me, that everyone, consistency, perseverance, and once you have the dream and passion, and if you chase them, I think you can go a long way.
I think these events are so important for that reason. It's like about taking action, and these events are always important because they're catalysts for the conversation to continue and for more to happen in terms of creating opportunities for women and for underrepresented minorities. So this has just been great. I mean, Laila, I love her. She's so confident and so strong and very much an unapologetic leader, and that's inspiring.
I think one of the key things I got from Laila today was the fact that having your male allies, and I think even to people like at home, I think this is very important for the male ally to understand, is that we are here, even how we're standing here right now, we're kind of here in support of our female counterparts. And I think that even if you see like a few of us here today, it's very important to really be those male allies and really support what women are doing in the space. We realize it's not easy. We realize that it's something that does require us to open the doors and kick down doors. And I think one thing that I really took from what Laila Ali said today was that she went into the sport with intention. She intentionally did everything that she's doing. I think that's very important for us to understand too, that we're doing this with intent. If we are intentionally opening the doors for women to break into the space, break into the C-suite, break into leadership positions, as men, I think it's going to be a win-win-win for our organizations, and it's going to be a win for us personally as we grow. So I'm very excited about what was said, and I'm really excited about this type of event. I think it's really needed.
Right. I agree. I think I wholeheartedly agree, and it's funny that you mentioned allyship, because that was the exact same thing I was going to say. As male allies, the only way for the needle to shift or for us to make progress is to lean in and make sure that the forefront is for women to be in a place where we already are in most cases. From an underrepresented standpoint, we obviously need more of a presence with women as well as underrepresented minorities, but without having both and all inclusive, I think that's the part that misses a lot of points with diversity and inclusion. We always talk about diversity. We don't always talk about inclusion. Inclusion obviously is almost, if not more important than the diversity component.
And I think one of the things that is a really great reminder from events like this for people out there is that oftentimes we think about a female CEO or a female fighter or a female something, but why does that female have to be there? Why do we think of ourselves as, oh, I'm a female in this industry? It's like, no, I'm just in this industry. You know, I'm not a female fighter, I'm a fighter. I'm not a female CEO, I'm a CEO. You know, and we don't have to cripple ourselves in those ways. And this is a really great event to help us remind that, because we see so many strong women that are around us, and it's a great thing to really see that representation out there.
When I think about fierce women, today's guest speaker is top of mind for me. Laila Ali is an entrepreneur, a businesswoman, the daughter of Muhammad Ali, a wife, a mother, a sister, a cook, an author, and an amazing undefeated athlete, which I think is why we had to move the conference to the gym today. Laila has most recently gone on to a career in television, focusing on health and wellness, and she's hosting a show called Homemade Simple. Through it all, Laila has been so passionate as an advocate for women and making sure that they have equal access to opportunity in both sports and in business. And her journey as a woman leader in a male-dominated industry is truly a story of inclusion. And it's also incredibly powerful and inspirational. So we couldn't be more delighted to have Laila Ali join us today to kick off this conference. Laila? Clicker?
I have it. Hello, ladies. Thank you so much. How are you all doing today? This is a good-looking audience. Wow. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much, VMware, for inviting me back to speak again and the Women Transforming Technology Conference. I think it's amazing just having all of us women here together to connect, share, and inspire. I have to tell you, I had a little bit of anxiety about this particular conference because I was like, women in technology, what do I know about technology? Like, what am I going to say? I mean, it took me, well, technology, are you guys usually good at math? I'm asking because it took me 5 times just to pass algebra. Like literally, I had to take it 5 times. So I was a little bit, and I said, you know what, it's not really about technology per se, but just the fact that I too am a woman who was in a male-dominated sport. So I want to share with you about that and tell you some of the things that I went through, some of the things that I've learned. But before I get into that, I just want to say that I truly appreciate all of you all, technologically gifted individuals, okay? Because I use technology every day, just like everyone else, and it really helps move my business forward with my Laila Ali Lifestyle Brand, from Facebook to Instagram, right, to some of the software I use on my blog, WordPress, Infusionsoft, SiteLock, I mean, so many different ones, my cell phone, my banking, and more online banking, and more recently, my computerized Miele coffee maker. No, really, I just remodeled my kitchen. That was a big deal. And I know a mom had to have been behind that because she knew exactly what I needed to get started every day and be my absolute best, because I have 2 young children. You have any moms in the room? Hey, moms. You already know having kids takes things to a whole nother level. So, like I said, even though I'm not in the tech field, we have a lot of things in common. Being in a male-dominated arena for me as a boxer, being a wife, being a mom, being someone who just wants to be able to go as far as my ambition, my drive, and my expertise will take me without anything getting in my way. Can you guys relate to that? Right. We all just want to be treated equally. We want to go as far as we absolutely can without anything or anyone stopping us. I do know how to use this. So I have a long bio, many different titles, but I want to say that nothing I've done over the past 20 years has happened by accident. That still trips me out to even say that I'm 40 now, to be able to say 20 years, right? like how fast it goes by. I know a lot of you all are younger than I am, but trust me, it goes by really quickly. But everything that I've done has been intentional and it's been done with purpose. And even though I've made some mistakes along the way, because we all will, that's just a part of life, I did have a plan going in. So I want to tell you about my boxing career, my transition out of boxing, and where I am now. That cool? Okay. So a lot of people think that I started boxing simply because my dad is Muhammad Ali. And that makes sense, you'd be like, okay, she was daddy's girl, grew up in the gym with her father, probably said, oh, I want to be like my dad. But they're surprised to hear that it actually is not how it happened at all. I didn't want to box because of my dad. In fact, I didn't even know about women's boxing until I saw it on television for the first time. So I was at a friend's house. We were getting ready to watch a Mike Tyson fight. You guys know who Mike Tyson is, right? So that was like when everyone stopped, the world stopped, right, to watch the big heavyweight fights. So I was at a friend's house, and we had our popcorn, our soda. We're getting ready to watch these guys fight, and all of a sudden, these women come into the ring. And I was like, oh, my goodness. Like, what is going on? I didn't even know women box, and I immediately was excited and had this feeling inside like I could not wait to see what was about to happen. So these women get in the ring, and they were brawling. It turned into a bloody fight. These women were like scrapping. That's what we call it when you're really getting down. Some of you guys know what that means. Ladies, you know what I'm saying. And I was like, I want to do that. And my friend's father, I was about 18 at the time, my friend's father was like, girl, you're crazy. Those girls will take your head off. You're too pretty to be a fighter. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? But I kind of tuned him out. It was kind of like, wah, wah, wah. I could just hear him in the background, though, telling me, like, you couldn't do that, you couldn't do that. So I went home dreaming that night about becoming a fighter. And I said, I cannot believe that I didn't know that women box. My father's Muhammad Ali. Like, how did I not know this? So I went home. And of course, the next day I woke up with fear and kind of started doubting myself, like, how am I going to just start boxing? That's crazy. Even though I felt like I wanted to and that I could, I'd always been a fighter. That's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that another time. But I was like, I can do this. But then I was like, no, I can't. Like, what is everyone going to think? I was going to school full time. I actually had a business. I've always been very ambitious. I had a nail salon by the time I was 19. So I was going down a certain path. And then I was like, I can't do it. So it took me about a year of contemplation, of thinking about boxing. And then I decided to go for it. So I had a friend who was training at a local boxing gym. She was just doing it as a workout. So I said, let me go try and see if I actually have what it takes. Because at that time, I wasn't an athlete. I hadn't competed in sports. I was, probably about 30 pounds overweight, wasn't fit. I did what most people do, have a gym membership. You don't keep going, just kind of, eating what I wanted. I mean, I was, at this time, I was around 18, 19. So I decided to sign up and go to this boxing gym, and I got with this trainer, and I said, look, I just want to work out. I didn't want to tell anybody that I was actually thinking about becoming a professional boxer, because I knew that it would be a big deal to have Muhammad Ali's daughter become a fighter, and that there would be a lot of responsibility on my part just because of his legacy, right? And I was like, do I really want to do this? I never wanted to live my life publicly. I had made that decision growing up, just being the daughter of a global icon, always having people around. I didn't want that for myself. So that was the inner conflict that I was dealing with. It was so much that I had to think about. So once I started going to the gym, started training after school, after work, boy, it was tough. Right? But I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I looked forward to it every single day. 6 days a week, actually, not every single day. Went to the gym. Maybe 6 months into it, I had fell all the way in love with boxing. Now, remember, I was going around saying that I was just working out, that I wasn't actually going to become a professional fighter. Now, there was about 200 men, I would say, at the gym I was at, maybe 5 women, me being one of them, training at the gym. So women's boxing was still under the radar. Okay? And I remember having to dress a certain way. There wasn't no Lululemon pants. No tight pants, honey. How you see the girl, we walk around now with our stretch pants on, running errands, doing that. You don't go to a boxing gym with your stretch pants on because then the guys can't focus. No, really. I'm serious. It's funny, but it's like so I had to dress down because, I wanted to be seen as a fighter. I mean, because remember, there was always this, oh, you're too pretty to fight, and, you know, all these types of things. So you don't want guys looking at you at the boxing gym. You want to be able to focus. So I fell in love with boxing, started sparring. That's when you actually get into the ring and fight. And because there wasn't that many women, and the fact that I weighed about 168 pounds, that's when I took off 20 pounds at the time, there wasn't many women my size. And boxing is all about being in certain weight classes. So I was sparring men. And I remember getting in there. That's kind of normal, though. Like, there's normal for women to get in the ring with men because there's just not as many women in the gym. But especially for a girl of my size and with my power. So I would get into the gym. I remember the first time I was sparring this guy, and he was so much smaller than me. Like, he really had no business being in there. But because he was a man, you know, he just assumed that he was going to be able to hang. So I remember I hit him with the right hand, dropped him. And this is before I even knew how to fight. I was just swinging. So I probably was swinging as hard as I could because I had no real control yet, right? I was just like, bam, hit him. And I remember the look on his face. He was so embarrassed, so surprised. And then, of course, it got around the gym that Laila knocked this man down. And then it was like, well, what's she going to do? She has power. Like, is she going to fight? So it wasn't long before it got back to my dad, who I hadn't told that I was actually training. I never asked for help. I'm that person that's like, I want to do things on my own. You know, and again, I was just trying to figure it out. And I knew my dad probably wasn't going to necessarily like it. So my dad comes in town, and he says, you know, because he lived in a different state. My parents are divorced. Comes in town and does his normal visit and says, you know, I hear you're boxing. And I was like, yeah, Dad, I am. And I'm like, here we go. You know, and he's very serious. And my father says, well, you know there's going to be a lot of attention on you. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, I know. And I've thought about that because I had. A lot of thinking went into what I had already decided I was going to do. And he says, well, what's going to happen if you get knocked down? You know, if you're in the ring and the lights are on you and you get knocked down. I'm like, well, I'm going to do what you did. I'm going to get back up. And then he says, well, what if you get knocked out? I'm like, well, that's just not going to happen. But for the sake of this conversation, I'll ask for a rematch. He's like, oh, Dad. So he got really, really frustrated because he was trying to talk me out of it indirectly because everyone who knows me knows you can't tell me not to do something. So he was trying to get me to come to the conclusion on my own. You know people like that you have to make them think it's their idea. We all know those people, right? So he was trying that with me. And I said, he said what was really on his mind. And he said, you know what? It's not for you. It's not for women. It's too tough. It's a man sport. And I really didn't get offended when he said that, to be honest with you. And I still don't let it affect me when certain people say that because he didn't know any better. And a lot of times people just don't know any better and you have to show them. So I said, Dad, you know, I understand how you feel, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that was it. You know, and then I went into boxing. From that point on, now that I told my dad, I went ahead and went public. I went on Good Morning America, because this is news, okay? Muhammad Ali's daughter is becoming a fighter. Sat down with Diane Sawyer, did a wonderful interview, and then that's when the floodgates opened. All the naysayers started, you know, telling me, you know, you're too pretty to box. Why would you want to fight? Most people think that you fight because you have to. Like people who just grew up in bad neighborhoods or things like that, and all they could do was fight. Like she couldn't possibly want to fight. I remember people saying, this must be a publicity stunt. You must want to be a model. And to me, I was thinking like, and you're using boxing as a platform. I'm like, why would I? Really? Like, why would I risk my looks in the ring if I want to be a model? It doesn't make any sense. But it was so annoying. That was the most annoying thing for me. And I used to think to myself, well, if I was unattractive, would that make people feel more comfortable? So you had those people. They were like, you're just too pretty to box because they put us in a box of, you know, you're pretty. You should be doing something easier, right, and using your looks. And then there was the people that were just women just aren't supposed to fight, right? So, and then you're Muhammad Ali's daughter. You know, you have all these different opportunities. Why are you fighting in the first place? But none of that mattered. I just wanted to fight. I wanted to be taken seriously as an athlete. So I remember having my pro debut, and I felt like I had so much to prove on so many different levels. And it was off TV strategically because, remember, I didn't have an amateur background. I'm fighting for the first time. I'm going to get in the ring. And even the people who were working with me, my trainers, my coaches, everyone, they were going to even see for the first time, like, what's she really going to do? Because someone says they're going to do something, but then it's like, is she going to freeze when you get in front of the audience? Because normally you would get a chance to practice in amateur boxing or something like that. And I'll tell you later why I didn't go the amateur route. So I'm getting ready to fight, and I was ready, right? So packed audience, 80 different media outlets. It might as well have been on TV because they were ready to report everything that happened. Judges sitting around the ring, the bright lights, my dad there, the paramedics there, waiting, they're always there. And I remember getting in the ring and just thinking, like, this is it. I was ready to go. I had trained hard. I did everything I needed to do. Bell rang. 54 seconds later, my opponent's on the canvas. Knocked her out, 54 seconds. I was so upset at that knockout. I was like, all that work for 54 seconds? All that work. When I think back to my first fight now, though, I appreciate that 54-second knockout. I'm telling you, back then I didn't. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, 54 seconds after all of that? Like, I even stood over the girl and was like, get up. This was so long ago now, but like now when I look back in hindsight, I think about how I actually appreciate it, because if I would have went the distance and just had a so-so performance, it wouldn't have had that. I wouldn't have been able to make the statement that I made. I wouldn't have been, able to be on the cover of the sports section and really show other fighters, other promoters that a woman could be center stage, right? And it inspired them, because you know how people are in business. Oh, she's doing well. We need to get somebody else and promote someone else and take things to the next level. So it really shined a light on women's boxing, and I don't think that would have happened if I wouldn't have, had that knockout. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself in my mind. So I went on to keep winning, keep knocking people out. And even though I was doing great, there were so many challenges that I faced as a female in the sport. And even though at the time I didn't focus on that, like I didn't think, oh God, it's so hard for me as a woman. I remember even now, and I thought about this in preparing to speak to you all today, that I was like, I'm a fighter. I'm not a female fighter. You see what I'm saying? Because as a fighter, you just want to be seen as a fighter. So I never really focused on trying to take a stand for women or anything like that, because I felt like, you can see that I'm a woman. I don't need to tell you that. You can see that I'm strong. You can see that I'm capable. I mean, I'm getting here and knocking these people out, just like the men do, right? But there were many challenges. For example, people don't realize I got a lot of attention because my last name is Ali. And I got in the ring and I backed it up. People don't realize this. There was a lot of other famous daughters that fought. Joe Frazier's daughter fought. I actually beat her. It was fun fight. George Foreman's daughter, she was fighting at the time. She saw us fight, she quit after that. She's like, because she was going to be next. So she was like, I'm good. She got out the sport. There was a guy named Ingemar Johansson's daughter, Archie Moore's daughter, Roberto Duran had a granddaughter. All these women were fighting at one time. So it was definitely much more than just a last name, right? But I, being Muhammad Ali's daughter, being so pretty, like they said, having all these factors, still couldn't get to a certain level. I never fought on HBO because HBO said they won't show women's boxing. For all those years, never fought on any of the main networks. A lot of people, for so many years, they know who I am, they love me, never seen me fight. They just like the idea that I'm a fighter, which is great. I mean, it's cool, but they didn't have the opportunity because a lot of my fights were off TV, because as a fighter, when you become a world champion, which I was, you have to defend your titles. You have to fight, you have to defend your titles every so often. So even if there was no TV, I still had to fight. So HBO didn't start showing women's boxing until this year, 2018. They just showed, probably like a couple weeks ago. I was at the Kentucky Derby, and that evening, some women were fighting on television. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with the women's movements right now, because they knew they were going to be next. Like, wait a minute, you won't show women's boxing. Why? So now they're showing, I don't care why though, I'm just glad that they are, and I'm hoping that they'll continue doing it. Women's boxing wasn't in the Olympics even until 2012. And that's why I didn't compete as an amateur, because I'm like, what am I going to be in amateur boxing for? It was just better for me to just go pro at the time. But now women's boxing is in the Olympics. We still have a long way to go. There's only 3 weight classes for women, but there's 10 for men, which makes it hard for fighters, because if they don't have your weight class, you can't compete. Or you have to try to come down or go up, and it's not natural to have to strain yourself to make a certain weight and not be at your best. So we still have a lot to go, in this area. Women still to this day only fight 2-minute rounds, where men fight 3-minute rounds. And men fight 12-round championships, and we only fight 10. So that never made sense as a boxer. Like, why can't we? First of all, 2 rounds just isn't enough time, okay, when you're trying to, basically we're trying to beat each other up, right? Trying to beat each other up. I don't like to sound too aggressive, but you have to remember, in the context of my sport, I need that time. I need that extra minute, okay? And I need those extra 2 rounds. And it's basically saying that we can't get fit enough to go the distance, so it doesn't make sense. A lot of women don't like that. It also makes you fight faster, where you feel kind of like that you got this time and you're kind of in a rush and you can't really focus on your skills quite as much. So that happens a lot of times in women's boxing as well. So I decided to retire at a certain point, because all these things that I just mentioned discourage women from getting into boxing, and I actually ran out of people to fight. I mean, it got to the point where at the end of my career, it was just like, who's left? Like, who do I have in my weight class or above or below? I've even fought at a higher weight. It was harder for me to go down, because 168 for me, I weigh 195 pounds right now. I know, I see your faces. I weigh 195 pounds. I'm very comfortable talking about my weight because I used to weigh in for a living. No, really. I'm 195 pounds, so imagine me at 168 pounds. I was a lot smaller. So for me, people would say, why don't you just go down? Because there was more women in the, I couldn't. I was already as small as I could get, So I decided to retire from boxing. And mind you, this is in my prime. This is in my prime as an athlete, that I worked so hard. I was doing what I loved, but there just was nothing left for me anymore. It's like they're not letting me fight on TV. There's not a whole lot of women left. So I was like, let me do something else. Plus, I wanted to start a family. So I decided to go ahead and I got a divorce. That was a good move. We won't get into that. That was a really, really, really good move. And decided, I didn't want to just start a family right away, but I knew in my mind that I wanted to. So I decided to retire in 2007, had my last fight in South Africa, which was amazing because Nelson Mandela was in the audience. I would never forget. He was actually an amateur boxer, friend of my family, so he was there. So that was a really amazing way for me to go out of the sport. And I remember Dancing with the Stars called, and this is the transition point for me. So this is back in season 5. Any of you watch Dancing with the Stars? So back in season 5, I think they're like on 15 or something like that now. Before I even had children, they called, and I was like, I'm not doing that. That seemed kind of corny to me, I was like, I don't know if this would be good. It hadn't been around so long. And then I said no. And then I thought about it, and I said, well, actually, you know what? This is good. This is a good thing, because I need to show a different side of myself, because all these years I focused on trying to be tough and trying to prove a point, and now I was seen as the intimidating boxer, right? And now that I want to do other things, that image was not going to help me. Helped me in boxing, but now I had to flip the script. So dancing was a perfect opportunity for me to get in there and show a different side of myself. So I said yes, ended up going the distance, right, to the last show. I didn't win, but I felt like I won, because my personal goal was not necessarily to win. If I won, cool, but I know that, the judges and the audience have to do with that. It's not like boxing where it's like all on me. So I said, I just want to make it to that last show so I get those, 40 million viewers every week, right? So I did. And next thing I know, I'm hosting shows. I did American Gladiators with Hulk Hogan. And I was a commentator on a show, and I was a correspondent for CBS Early Show, many shows that I did. And I still felt unfulfilled because I was like, what can I do that's really going to give me that passion that I had when I was a boxer? That's what was missing for me. So it took me about 5 years to figure that out, and this is what a lot of athletes go through. You know, we did what we loved, what are we going to do now, right? And that's when I had to think, well, what is it that I actually loved about my boxing career? And I love that, you know, I was able to set a goal, have a plan and a strategy, and go in there and execute. And I was in full control of the outcome in the ring. So I wanted to be able to apply that to what it is that I'm doing now. And that's when I really realized that I love to encourage other people to take control of their health. And that's pretty much how the Laila Ali Lifestyle Brand came to be. So once I realized that my passion was health and wellness, okay, then I started my blog, I started my podcast, I released my cookbook, Food for Life, which is my baby. Getting ready to launch my nutrition line, a line of spices soon. And this is where I'm talking about all of the exposure for my brand, which I created, really heavily relies on technology and social media, online, automated marketing, which I'm actually learning about now. I'm telling you, that's why I said I really appreciate all of you, because it takes a lot for me to get it. I just came back from a 2-day training in Arizona with a company called Infusionsoft. Does anyone know what that is? So it's like an online marketing, well, automated marketing technology, but it's really complex. So they actually have to teach you how to use it. And once again, I'm outside of my comfort zone because dancing as a boxer was outside of my comfort zone, but I knew I had to do something to kind of, you know, shake it up. You have to sometimes get uncomfortable before you can get uncomfortable. I'm sorry, let me say that again. Sometimes you have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable again, right? And you have to take chances, and that's one thing that I've always done. So here I am again outside of that comfort zone. But when I get discouraged and I experience setbacks, which I do, I remind myself why I'm doing what I do. And I think that's important for us all to do, to relight that fire inside of you, refocusing on my passion, you know, and that always propels me to move forward. So again, my passion is encouraging people to be the best they can be in every area of their life. And just like when I was boxing, you know, I set a goal. I'm learning and I'm growing every day. I have a plan and a strategy, and I've executed a lot of it, but of course, I continually want to do more. I'm sure a lot of you all can relate to that. You want to keep going. So this is what I want to say to you all here today is that, and this is where I know that we can relate. We all will face challenges, right? We have our self-doubt, and we have our fear, and sometimes you have roadblocks. And these are the times when you sometimes feel like giving up, whatever that is in life, whether it's at work or in relationships. And these are the times when you have to really gather your courage, right? And connect with your inner warrior. Sometimes it feels like she's not in there. Trust me, she is, because you could not have gotten this far without your inner warrior. And we've all overcome something in our lives to get to the point that we are at now. So you have to have a tremendous amount of strength, courage, and resiliency to have been able to done that. I wrote a book called Reach, Finding Strength, Spirit, and Personal Power, where I talk about a lot of the challenges that I went through in my childhood and young adulthood that made me able to be a fighter in the first place. So I always remind myself of everything that I've been through whenever I get weak. And I tell you, I'm as strong as they come. I really am, and I know that, but trust me, you know, even my inner warrior gets tired sometimes. You know, people who feel like they're not strong, they get upset with themselves and are like, man, I wish I could be stronger. And people who are considered to be strong, sometimes we get tired of being strong, the strong one all the time. You just want to take a break, and I think it's okay to do. But when I feel that way, I give myself a pep talk. I do. I have a coach in my head. So I'll give myself a day or two to be down. But then I'm like, girl, get it together. You know, get up. Remember your passion. Envision the bigger picture. And that's what always helps me, envisioning the bigger picture when I make things bigger than myself. I even made it bigger than me when I got into the ring and I felt like I was fighting for, the hungry or fighting for kids that were getting put through sex trafficking. I knew how to take that energy and just unleash it on the girl that I was fighting, and just to make that moment bigger than me. And then I felt like, she's nothing, She had no idea what force I was coming in. The ex-husband, he gave me a lot of power a lot of time. I have to thank him for that because I would just unleash it on those girls and they didn't even know. So I am a very confident person. I think that's something that's pretty obvious about me, and I'm proud to say it unapologetically, but my confidence comes from preparation. And that's one thing that people ask me all the time. Well, how are you so confident? And I say, because I prepare. I do the work that it takes to be at my best. And knowing your purpose, right? Having passion, that's what it takes to see your goals all the way through. And in order to have all three, the confidence, the purpose, and the passion, you definitely have to connect with that inner warrior that I was talking about. And sometimes you have to rekindle that flame whenever you feel it getting dim. And things happen every day that sometimes will dim your flame. And that's why it's important to, like I said, reconnect, meditate, do whatever it is that you need to do to get back on track. So I heard that last year, as part of her keynote, Gloria Steinem promised attendees that she would take a bold action. Were any of you here last year? I hope you guys did that. Did you guys follow through? Take a bold action? It doesn't sound like it. I wasn't expecting that. Let me turn the slide. Let me see what I can say next. Skip that whole paragraph. No, I'm joking. All right, well, we're going to continue that, right? Let's keep it going. So I want you all, for our action this year, to relight that flame inside of yourself. Even if you don't think it's dim, if you know that it is, what can you do to wake up that inner warrior that's inside of you? It could be simply writing out what you're passionate about or your career goals, just reminding yourself. That's what you have to do on a regular basis. I know I do, right? People always ask people who are successful, well, what do you do? You have to be consistent. Consistency is key, and you have to remind yourself consistently why you're doing the things that you're doing. So it seems something small, right? But you can have your short-term goals, your long-term goals, sharing how you want to make a difference in the world. Why are you in tech in the first place? Committing to mentor someone. Getting involved in a movement. That really fires me up. Getting involved in, all these movements that are going on right now in our world, to me, they're all connected. It's really about people saying that they want to be heard, right? Regardless if it's women, if it's, about gender, Black Lives Matter, whatever it is, people want to be heard. They want to be treated fairly, treated like human beings. I involved myself with the Women's Sports Foundation just to help move girls and women forward through sports and empower them in that way. I also got involved with an organization called Athletes for Impact, and then A2, which is fighting sex trafficking around the world. So that is something that you can do as well to make yourself feel like you're a part of something bigger. Because again, we're all connected, right? Are we? I need something from you guys now. Make sure you're still awake. Thank you. So whatever you do, though, you have to make sure it fires you up, right? Fire yourself up. Something that inspires you to strive to be your absolute best so that you can inspire someone else, right? Simply by being you. And that's the thing, is sometimes it seems overwhelming when you think of, being a role model and, being a part of a movement for women. Just being your absolute best does a lot to show other women that they can. When I watched boxing, women's boxing for the first time, and I mentioned that, when I was fighting, I never thought to myself, I'm a woman, this is going to be hard. I never thought about the limits, because sometimes we put unconscious limits on ourselves. And I had my blinders on. I was like, well, if other women are doing it, I saw this woman, Christy Martin was her name, who I saw boxing for the first time. She was already in the ring doing it. And I was like, well, I can too. So in your field, I would think if you see women who have been successful and gotten to the top, that lets you know you can do it too. So, of course, you want to figure out and take notes. And that's what's great about a conference like this, being able to come together and do that. I never had the opportunity to meet Christy and ask Christy, how she was able to do it along the way. And at the time, I wasn't really worried about that. I ended up fighting Christy Martin, which is amazing because the woman that I saw boxing on television for the first time, we ended up fighting, which was one of the biggest fights in women's boxing. And I would say that a lot of women are in the ring now still to this day, and they don't get the attention that they deserve from the sport. But I will say that the ones that stood out are the ones that were unapologetically bold and had that fire that you have to have as a fighter. That's the thing. If you put it in context, like I can get up here and talk about knocking people out and my style and my confidence, and I would get in the ring and tell these girls exactly what I was about to do. And at the time, it was like, oh, some people didn't like it, some people do. It didn't matter. I did what I needed to do to make sure that when I went into there, because it's a war, that I was ready. So a lot of times I would say the things that I would say, and for me, for my own thought process, had nothing to do with them. And then in turn, so I was busy being the best that I could be, but then I had all these young girls coming behind me that come up to me now even that talk about how inspired they were. So that's why I always encourage people to stay in your lane, don't worry about anybody else. You want to take a little here, a little there, a little information, but you have to always stay true to you and what's in your heart. Because if you're too busy worried about everybody else, then you're never going to be great at what you do. And that's one thing I never did. I never let anyone turn me into my dad or try to. Because I remember when I first started, it was like, are you going to do the rope-a-dope? Are you going to call out the rounds? And for all of you some of you are younger and don't really know boxing, my dad was known for calling out rounds. So I'm going to knock him out in round 2, or I'm going to knock him out in round 3, and he would do it. So then people started asking me, are you going to do that too? And I'm like, no, I'm not Muhammad Ali, and actually I don't want to be Muhammad Ali, I want to be Laila Ali. And then the rope-a-dope, he'd sometimes get on the ropes and let people like wail at him and basically tire themselves out. And then he'd come back and get them after that. No, I'm not going to do that either. Because I knew that if I started that in the beginning, letting people try to turn me into my dad and try to get attention off of being like my dad, I was never going to be able to have my own identity. And that's one thing that I notice with individuals who come behind a famous parent or something. They never really can find their own way. And I will say that the reason why I've been successful, I'll always be, don't get me wrong, I'm always going to be known as being Muhammad Ali's daughter. He's one of the most famous men in the world. Okay, he's a global icon. And I actually don't have a problem with that because I know that I also have, my own accomplishments. So I'm so happy to have that same DNA running through my veins. Not running through my veins, but just having that same DNA, that blood running through my veins. The boxing. Sometimes I got hit in the head a lot. No, I'm joking. It's true. I'm joking, but serious. But, so, what was I saying? Yes. I was just saying that I wasn't saying this, but I'm going to say now that boxing will always be my first love. It absolutely, absolutely will. I mean, people ask me all the time, do you really like to box? And I'm like, yes. And you definitely have to be a little different. I don't want to say crazy, but a little different to want to be a fighter in the first place. But I want to have the freedom, and I did back then and I do now, to do whatever it is that makes my heart happy. So from boxing, I left, and then people were like, well, you're not going to promote boxing? You're not going to train other fighters? I'm like, no, that's not what my passion is. My passion was to be a fighter. That's a whole separate, you all know, some people are good at leading others and teaching others, and I don't even have that kind of patience, like to teach another fighter how to fight. Or I don't want to deal with the characters, I don't want to say the men, but the characters that I'd have to deal with to promote boxing. Like, I don't want to do that. So now, like I said, you want to move on and you want to be able to, and I think about you ladies here, and I think about all the things that we all want for ourselves. And no matter what I'm doing in life, it's the same thing. I want to, like I said, I want to be able to go as far as my ambition will take me, my drive, and my expertise. So hopefully I inspired you all today with my story, and thank you. Thank you. I want to remind you to go ahead and go on Women Transforming Technology Facebook page and share something you're going to do to rekindle that flame inside of yourself, or light that flame inside of yourself, however you want to say it. Tag me as well. I'll go on there and I'll do the same. And now I want to open up the floor for some questions. I hope you have some. I think we're going to spend about 20 minutes or so with some questions. Is someone I think is going to take a mic around? Oh, yeah, two? Okay, good. Don't be shy, ladies. So we have some up front. Get some water.
Mike's everywhere. Hi, so really enjoyed hearing about your transition and all the changes and all that. Do you feel, looking back, that it's changing? And if so, how much? And what can we do to keep that change alive and going forward? Because I know a lot's been happening recently, but I think there's still more, obviously, that we can do.
For women's boxing, meaning
women's
changing?
Boxing, but as an example.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
Yes. So I think we have to continue to support one another. That's one thing that we need to do. Whenever we see, whether it's female athletes, sports is so important, and that's a regret that I have, even though it wasn't necessarily in my control when I was younger, that I didn't participate in sports at a younger age, because I didn't realize that I was an athlete, that I had it in me until I became a fighter. And I would have loved to have played tennis or basketball or something, right? So what I do is I give back through the Women's Sports Foundation. And trust me, when they asked me to be the president at one point, I was like, but I didn't even play sports. So I felt a little uncomfortable doing that. But then I said, well, I'm going to share my story about why I push for girls to be included in sports, because it just gives you a certain type of strength and confidence and discipline, and you build relationships, and you don't have a lot of the same body images and things like that some of the girls end up having, right? So you can give back through just different organizations and just support anytime you see things that women are doing, even if it's not something that you're necessarily into. Like, a lot of people aren't necessarily into women's boxing, but I would turn it on just because. Because they are going to look at the numbers all the time, right, and see who watched, right? And, that's what inspires people to put money behind it and promote the sport, and then it just it has an effect on everything. Everything is all connected. Did I answer your question? Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for everything you shared. I know sometimes...
I'm like over there.
Yeah, in the yellow? Yeah.
Yes.
So I know as women, I can tell by your demeanor, you kind of have the strong warrior that speaks in the way you carry yourself. I think as women, when you are strong, sometimes you have a hard time admitting you're so busy fighting, jumping over the hurdles and fighting your way up, that it's hard to admit when you are being afflicted by your gender or your race. And sometimes we don't want to acknowledge those things that bring us down, because we're almost scared that if we do acknowledge them, the walls will come crumbling down, right? So do you have a moment that you can speak to personally about where you kind of own that, you have a special spirit, and that in your ability to inspire others, you also understand that there are things that make it difficult for us to kind of move forward in society? Do you have a certain moment or a story that you can share about that?
Let me try to answer your question. I will say that one thing about me, and that I always try to share, because I am very honest, I'm very straightforward, and I try to be as authentic as I can. I don't really know any other way. Sometimes I say too much, and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. But I do share those stories of weakness, right? And we don't even like to use that word, everybody. And that's why I can say to you, I'm as strong as they come. I am. And I know that without a doubt, because I've been in the ring, first of all, as a real warrior, animal warrior outside of the ring, but at the same time, I cry. I feel weak sometimes. I need emotional support from my husband or from my friends, or I need advice, or I'm like, man, I get discouraged. And I touched on that here today. So, and the reason why I say that is because I know you can look at me. I know my energy and my vibe is strong, okay? Aside from the fact that I can walk in a room, people don't even have to know I was a fighter, because naturally if they know that, it's like, oh, okay, they get a certain energy. But without even knowing, it's a way that I carry myself, because it's how I really feel, right? And that, you can't hide that, right? It comes through. But I think that being vulnerable and sharing those things is part of what makes you stronger, because you have to do it in order to be a well-rounded individual. So once you understand that it's okay, right? But it's like, what is the next step you take after that, right? You have to first recognize it, not be afraid to share it with other people. Now, you know there's going to be certain people who are going to take some of your weaknesses and try to use them against you, right? You're always going to have those people where you'd be like, oh, I shouldn't have shared that. That's just part of life. So you want to have certain discernment with things, but just in general, I would say that you have to just know, once you know it's okay. I mean, my dad, we all know Muhammad Ali and what he stands for, and I have a certain outlook on people and life because I know my dad's faults. I'm not some of the ones that have been documented and some that aren't. But I'm like, really, Dad? Like, you're like the greatest of all time and a global icon, and you're going to do that or say that or, you know, in private. So it's like I can look, I see things, so I see that nobody's perfect. So I don't expect myself to be or anyone else to be either. So I hope that that answers your question a little bit, but it's a thought process is what I'm trying to get to. And again, it's that coach inside of my head, because a lot of times we compare ourselves to other people. You don't even realize how much you do it. But when you kind of bring everybody back down to a certain level, then nobody's above or below you. Like, we're all human beings, and this is a part of being a human being. And the more you can get comfortable with that, then, you realize that, then the more you can get comfortable with just kind of embracing all sides of you, right? Thank you. That help? Okay.
Hello. So when I became, sorry. Yes. When I became an engineer, my mother was horrified. So when you became a boxer, what did your mom say?
My mom, I remember telling my mom, and she was very quiet, but then she was like, okay. She made me feel like I could do whatever it is I wanted to do. That's one thing my mom was really, really good at. She was really good at making me feel like there weren't any limits on me. But she told me, after I became a world champion and was doing well, she said that her heart dropped. And she just thought, oh no, not again. Like, not, because what your family goes through, just the nerves and what they feel when they're sitting there in that seat to watch you fight is like, it's so uncomfortable. So seeing my father do that so many times, and especially being a heavyweight, you can die in the ring, right? And especially when you're dealing with the kind of power my dad was dealing with as a heavyweight. So she just thought, oh God, not again. But she knew that she's a very spiritual person, and she knew that she had to let me be free to do what I want to do. Plus, she knew she couldn't tell me not to do it anyway. So you gotta let Layla be Layla. But it made total sense. I'm telling you, if you ever pick up my book, Reach, I was already a fighter. Now I was just gonna be a professional fighter. I got in a lot of trouble growing up. I got in a lot of trouble because this energy that I had and this anger that I had a very dysfunctional upbringing, and luckily I got a control of it at a certain point. But my mom was just like, go figure, she found boxing, so yeah. But it's hard. It's hard when your parents or anyone that you love and respect, don't feel good about what you choose to do in your heart. It's unsettling. And I didn't realize how much I cared about what my father thought until he came and apologized. And I want to mention that because I forget to sometimes. My dad apologized to me. He said, I want to talk to you. After I won, I think it was my second world title, and I said, oh God, what now, And he says, I just want to apologize. And he had tears. My dad used to cry all the time. And that's another thing. I saw a strong man like my dad used to cry all the time. And he'd say, these are just tears of joy. So I grew up feeling like, oh, it's okay to cry and show feelings. But, and he said, I was wrong. You can fight. and women can fight, and you're good. And then he got excited. He was like, I'm gonna show you how to jab. I'm like, you're too late for that. Like, I just won this title. Like, I couldn't believe it. He's trying to show me how to jab. Like, really, Dad? So that was a funny moment. So I can relate to that, though. The greatest of, imagine if I would have listened to my dad telling me, the greatest boxer of all times, and my father, this is not for you, it's not for women. And sometimes, he didn't know. He didn't know any better. And he was taught we protect women. He didn't want his baby girl. There's 9 of us, okay? There's 9 of us. I have 2 brothers, and I'm his last born child, and I'm the only one to become a fighter. So he thought he was scot-free. Here come the baby. Guess what, Dad? I want to box. I was like, no. Because most boxers don't want their children to be boxers because we think it's crazy, it's a hard sport, we don't want you to do it. We don't understand why we want to do it a lot of times, but we don't want you to do it. So, next question. Sorry, I'm taking up all the time. I think we had one.
Hello. It was really inspiring for me in person. And you are a very passionate, strong woman, and you are shining on stage.
Thank you.
And we can see it very easily. But you decided to fight and you did it. But I really like to hear the second passion, the wellness. You said that it took 5 years' time. Mm-hmm. What did you do when you were down?
Yes.
I don't know, how do you find it?
Yes.
What did you do in that experience, in that journey? I'd like to hear.
I think I understand. So, as I mentioned, I had these opportunities, right, to do hosting, and I had a new platform for myself, which was great. You want to take advantage of them, but I wasn't fulfilled inside. So that 5 years was really like thinking, what am I passionate about? Because I'm sure some of you face that, where you're just like, everyone keeps talking about this passion. What is it? So really it's like, what would you do for free if you could, right? That's your passion. It's not about money, it's not about the bills, it's not about taking care of your family, it's about what would you do for free if you could do it. And what I used to always do is I would be writing out meal plans and fitness plans and, oh my God, for free for my friends. And you know how it is, when people you don't charge, they don't even appreciate it. It's like, give me a plan. Nobody would do it, and I got frustrated with that. But then I said, I figured it out, and it wasn't that simple. It took me that time, and I said, how can I take my passion for health and wellness, which I learned through boxing? Again, I had to learn how to run. I had to get out there. What does it take to be a champion? That's what I wanted. That was my quest as a boxer. I don't want to just be a boxer. I want to be undefeated. I went in there saying it. I want to be undefeated, and I want my world titles, and I want to be one of the best in my weight class. And I wrote about this when I was 23, when I wrote Reach, and I was able to accomplish those things. So I said it. That's what I want, and then I went and I did it. So everything that I learned, taking that and helping people apply it to their life, regardless, obviously people don't want to be boxers, but just being the best that you can be in life and the mindset that comes along with that. And then that with the nutrition that I learned about how eating a certain way affects your performance, all those things that I learned along the way, and I'm still learning, because we have a big problem, right? What do we all want to do? We want to lose weight, we want to get fit. Now we have all of these chronic illnesses that are directly related to our lifestyle choices and the way that we eat, but people don't connect the two. So just really encouraging people to take control of their health. And that to me was my passion, because again, I'm also the daughter of a global icon who helped change the world, right? And change people. And then you think to myself, what can I do? What can my contribution be? What would make me feel like, because I have that same thing in me that my dad had, like wanting to make a difference, wanting to help people. And that's how I chose to do it, because I don't want it to be a burden on me. I don't want it to feel like, oh, this is what I have to do because my dad did it, or because people expect me to. I want it to be something I really want to do. And it gets hard, it gets tough, because the industry is overcrowded. How many nutrition products do you have? How many lifestyle brands do you have? So I had to really be passionate about it, and it has to really be me. I have to be connected to it in order to continue doing it and to be successful at it. To answer your question? Okay. I'm kind of long-winded. I'm sorry.
Last question? Oh, I'm going to make this a great one. Okay. Thank you, Laila, for being amazing.
Thank you.
From one woman to another, congratulations on your continued success. You were in a physical arena. We're in a metaphorical arena every day. Trying to be great is difficult because we have perceptions that we have to fight like you. So when you were practicing and you were 5 out of 200, was there a male ally regardless of who you are, that said, I want to rock with her because she knows what she's doing and how did he affect you? And if not, what could you say to the sprinkle of allies in this room, the gentlemen who are here, and how they can support the women in this arena?
That's a good question. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, you have got to have your male allies, okay? You got to take those people who are already doing what you want to do or in power, whatever way you look at it, to help you, because we can't just do it on our own, because we've been fighting as women forever, right? And we're making some strides, but it takes those people to help pull us forward. And yes, I did have people in my corner, and, you know, first thing that had to be done to get people behind me was them to see my talent. That was the first thing. Like, she has something special. And it was hard to deny, being the size that I was. Then it's like I said, just being Muhammad Ali's daughter wouldn't be enough, because that can only go so far. That's what happened with some of the other famous daughters I mentioned. But this, me getting in the ring and seeing my commitment and my dedication to my sport, coming to that gym every single day that I was supposed to be there, 6 days a week, and not just being there to be there, not just making busy work for myself, actually focusing on getting better, and then having that special something, that knockout power. But I had to figure that out for myself. That's what set me apart from the other women, because there was a lot of talented women boxing. But what people like in boxing is they like a certain style in the ring. They want to see some fire, right? So I had to figure out, how was I going to bring that fire? And for me, that's what I would think about. Like, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to work on? So you have a certain amount that you have to do, right, to attract someone to want to push you forward in the first place. And then, you know, also just sharing. Sometimes you have to open your mouth and ask for what you want to be given. You can't expect people to do it for you, because we expect, like, oh, I'm here, I'm working hard, they see me. But everybody has a different set of goals and agendas and may not even be thinking about you in that way. But when you put someone, you hold them accountable and say, look, this is what I'm trying to do. Do you think that you can help me? You know, get them to commit. And for me, my ex-husband at the time, I joke about him, but seriously, I don't regret. I was so young when I got married, but he was perfect for that time, because he was a boxer, and he taught me a lot of what I needed to know. Then I had world champion trainers, Floyd Mayweather Sr., Roger Mayweather. These are Floyd Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather's family, world champions, Buddy McGirt, because they were like, wow, she has something like worth getting behind. So it took things to the next level, but I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without them. So I want to encourage any fellas in this room to get behind these ladies if you can, because that's what we need. We need a champion. We need a champion to help us move forward. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I wish you all the best. Even if you take just a little bit of anything I said that inspired you today, that makes me happy. So I wish you all the best in all that you do, and I wish I could hug all of you individually. So you guys take care, okay? Thanks.
I'll take a hug from everyone. Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.